Let's now talk about how we find keywords in chemistry. To understand how you find keywords, I think the first thing that you really need to understand is what topics you need keywords for. In chemistry, you have a bit of an interesting division where certain topics have a much bigger keyword focus, which is more or less more of like a theoretical focus. You're focusing on the theory, whereas other topics are focused more on practice. And I would really call this a conceptual focus. So you first want to understand which topics you really want to focus keywords on. For example, cells is much more of a conceptual topic. It's more practice-based, but there are some gems here and there. For example, knowing that you say, stronger oxidant, stronger reductant, preferentially reduced, preferentially oxidized. There's some hidden gems, but that's really it. But when you get to rates of reactions in equilibrium, this is a massive theoretical topic. It has a lot of good practice and conceptual behind it, but a lot of it is also keywords. And you would want to know, for example, Le Chatelier's principle partially oppose the change, net reaction, net forward, shifting to the right or left. There are so many different keywords. And so your first step is identifying what topics need them. And my major advice is to go for things like organic chemistry, especially when you talk about properties, a little bit of food chemistry, more or less talking about protein structures, and just everything about proteins and enzymes, and usually just rates of reactions in equilibrium, as well as fuels. These are your four big ones that you really want to focus on, right? And so in order to find keywords, your major thing should be firstly going through your textbook and looking at major words there. But my major consolidation advice would really be through doing checkpoints as well as past exams and collating keywords as you go on and basing that on what keywords you tend to miss. So for example, in rates of reactions, if you frequently miss that partially oppose the change, including that. And you can use your errors to fuel kind of a bank of keywords and you can eventually memorize them. And so your approach on the end of your exam should have been to create this bank of keywords, execute that on exam day by having them in the back of your mind, and also reinforcing that through checking your exams. You can check the blog when I go through common mistakes to get more on that. But when checking your questions, you can add in those keywords that you know and make sure you include every single one. And that reinforcement is exactly what I did. And I think it's absolutely essential to do well in chemistry.